Okay, well, maybe I'll just go ahead and do this video then. I don't know if I'm gonna have a ton of thoughts on this. I do think people are like over complaining about mage bots a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
The 2026 Mid-Season Invitational is here, and if you've watched more than 2 or 3 matches, you've probably noticed some of the best plays in the tournament so far are being done by support players. Although they're not often playing support champions, they're often playing champions designed for other roles entirely. We're seeing Camille support, Shen support, Pantheon and Elise, and even the AD carries aren't being spared from this madness since they're all playing mages now as well. We even saw Zap Zap make an appearance in one game. So why is the bot lane meta and pro play so crazy really right now? Well, it's due to...
Viper's actually my goat, man. He can play every champion. He's so good at AD carries. I think it's actually... One of the funniest things about this tournament to me is all the people complaining about Viper and Pays being on Mage bot lanes. They'll be like, oh, this player's so good. Why are you putting him on a Mage instead of a Marksman? But I'm like, they're actually... The problems in those games literally have nothing to do with these players being on Marksman. It's like, it's the members of their team surrounding them, because these players are so good at just everything that they play.
Pro players knowing how to abuse hidden game mechanics you could only ever know about if you just spent hours searching through the lore wiki page like I did. Experience catch-up mechanics, changes to minion pushing speeds, home guards, the new role quests, and the specific synergies role quest and solo XP have with certain champion archetypes. Let's break down all of the reasons for why the bot lane meta and pro...
Okay, so one of the things that he just showed on screen, right, is he showed Rabadons as he was talking about certain role quests having synergies with certain archetypes. What he's talking about right there is the fact that since the bot lane role quest allows you to get an extra item, and not only allows you to get an extra whole item, it also lets you get more items faster. For mages, when you have a Rabadons, you're not only allowed to get more total AP than you do in some of the other roles, you also can get more, you also get AP more quickly. So when you have your Rabadons, the fact that it scales your AP, obviously by 30%, you're getting more value out of that passive, and you're getting value out of that passive much quicker than you are in other roles, because you're just buying more AP faster.
Play is so strange right now.
My name's Rogue and I played League of Legends professionally for 7 years. Now I'm a full-time content creator and coach for all ranks, Iron through to Challenger. So if you want more information of what a coaching session with me will look like, you can find more information by following the link in the video description below.
So why are pro teams playing these bot lanes like Mel Camille or Zig Shen? Well, in order to figure that out, we have to remember why we don't play Mage's bot lane normally. Bot lane is a duo lane, which means champions have to share XP, and thus champions in bot lane generally end up being about 2 to 3 levels lower than the solo laners of mid and top who get solo XP.
Yeah, so generally the breakdown by role of like what resource each one gives and what champions are allowed to go in what role is like, you know, top lane, you get the most XP and you get a good chunk of gold. Mid lane, you get sort of the moderate amount of both. If you're the AD carry, you get low levels, but you get a lot of gold. By the way, in pro play, it's not even entirely true that you don't get very many levels, because they're very good at getting extra resources onto the AD carry. So it's not like these mid lane champions are actually even missing that many levels by the mid to late game versus mid game on pro games than they are in solo queue, just by the by. And then in support and jungle, it's like the better you can function on economy in terms of both levels and gold, the better off you are. But in jungle, it's like you're allowed to play something that can scale off gold and XP, because technically you could play a more resource-intensive playstyle. Just kind of depends on your comp. You don't want to like be farming the whole game, obviously, and then your team is left out to dry. You all know.
This is generally going to be bad for mages, since through a level up you of course get to put a point in an ability, making it more powerful. And for mages who play almost exclusively through ability usage, they'd therefore prefer to be in a solo lane where they can max those spells and unlock more powerful ultimates more quickly by receiving the solo XP. We can tell this is true because historically any time Riot made an ADC champion scale well through XP or through ability usage, they accidentally turned the ADC into a mid laner. Corki Mid, for example, terrorized mid laners with his 8 rocket ultimate until it was nerfed and he became a bot laner again. And just...
Okay, well, so Corki with the 8 rockets was designed to work in mid lane. That's like the whole reason he had the package and he had the AP option builds and things like this. So a little bit of a misconception to say that this champion was an AD carry that ended up dominating mid lane because of his 8 rocket ultimate. Because it's not entirely true. He was a mid laner when he had that champ design, and then Freak gave him back or switched him to 4 rocket and tried to swap him back into being a bot laner. So that's not a completely accurate assessment.
Diana mid became popular for a while because her passive gives permanent attack range given through level ups, which you would get more quickly in mid lane compared to bot lane.
Well, and she's just, obviously she just waves clear super well. She has one of the best movement abilities in the whole game. Like, her W is super long range, goes over terrain, resets, and is bufferable, so she's like super safe. Plus she has Buster Shot. She just has all the qualities that you want in a good laner. And her trading pattern was pretty degenerate too. It's very good into mages.
Sharing XP. Therefore, historically, mages played solo lanes to get faster level ups and get more powerful spells, while ADC played in a duo lane since they didn't care too much about sharing XP and they just needed to get gold. But things have changed now. As you'll soon see, supports do a lot less laning now. Base stats are a huge thing to consider, and role quests have changed things a lot. If you read what the bot lane role quest actually does, it amplifies the gold you gain from kills on champions and minions, and in addition it unlocks a final item slot for you. And this matters for mages because of one special item that ADCs don't have access to. Death Cap. Death Cap amplifies your ability power by an additional 30.
This is like true and not true. Obviously Rabadon's does, increase how good it is to have multiple items, but it's not like if they weren't building Death Cap that it still wouldn't be extremely good to be having accelerated gold and have an extra item slot. It's just like, I don't think this is a huge part of the argument, but it's true. It's very good.
30%, making it an absolutely huge power spike to hit once you've built up a big foundation of ability power through building other items.
But it's like, Rabadon's at 3 items is still just as strong. Well, it's actually technically weaker at 3 items than it is in mid lane, because mid lane role quest gives you, not only are you going to have your upgraded boots potentially for more offensive power, but also you'll have the 8% bonus AP, which you don't have in bot lane. So it's actually like at the same number of items is weaker than mid lane Rabadon's until your 7th item. But you build AP and you get to Rabadon's much quicker. So there's a very distinct difference there. It's not literally more powerful until your 7th item. If you're same goal, but you get it faster and you build AP faster.
Items that you can now complete more quickly through the new bot lane role quest that amplifies gold you receive. And in addition to this, you get an additional item slot through the quest, which means that you can buy another AP item, whose AP is being amplified yet again by another 30% due to Death Cap's passive. Meaning mages in bot lane hit an absolutely insane late game power spike due to Death Cap's scaling passive, the likes of which many 7-item ADCs can't even compete with themselves. But that's not...
The biggest benefit of a 7th item AD carry is not actually the amount of damage you can build. Most AD carries, like for crit AD carries, usually once you have your crit items, those are your damage items. Maybe you built a lethality item, that's 5, right? So you're not building an extra damage item usually past that. What you usually get out of having the 7th item is an extra defensive item. That means you can have your BT plus your GA, or you can have a scimitar plus your GA, and you don't have to sacrifice one type of defenses for another. Similarly, on hit, AD carries actually tend to hit their max damage spike even sooner. Like champions like Vayne and Kog'Maw and Varus pretty much max out their DPS in 3 or 4 items. Not maxed it out, but it's like at that point you're good enough, and then you start building defensively after that. Which gives you more room for defensive items. Your benefit is not the, damage that you get from having a full 7-item AD carry build.
The only reason that ADCs can't compare with these mages, because we haven't even looked at base stats. Using Caitlyn as an example, she starts the game with roughly the same amount of armor and magic resist. Through level ups, these stats increase, but notably, armor increases much more quickly than magic resist does, with her gaining on average 4.6 armor per level, but only 1.4 magic resist per level, meaning her armor growth per level is over 3 times higher than her magic resist growth is, and this is the case for all champions. So if a mage plays against an ADC bot lane, after they both laned against each other for a little while and had started to gain armor and magic resist through level ups, the ADC player is going to start taking far more damage from the mage player who does magic damage compared to the damage that the mage player will receive.
Well, he didn't do the armor growth for a mage. I know certain mages like Ziggs have had their armor growth nerfed over time, and he didn't show a mage armor growth to compare it to. So I mean, he showed us the Caitlyn one. I wish he'd showed us a Mage one as well, to at least, like, even a 1-to-1, like, one Mage champion versus one 80 carry champion. It's not necessarily true. So I guess we're just kind of, like, taking his word for it that, the armor growth is just significantly better for Mages than the MR growth is for 80 carries. I mean, I'd believe him, honestly, but, he doesn't
from the
provide
ADC
evidence.
player in the form of physical damage. So mages are absolutely insane with the bot lane role quest, as it lets them hit their death cap spike faster and hit a massive power spike at 7 items using death cap that's bigger than what ADCs can get. The only problem is that since bot lane is a duo lane, they have to share XP with the support, meaning they can't max their spells as quickly, and they don't get to benefit from that high armor growth as much, which keeps things in check. That's when pro players ask though, what if they don't have to lane with a support? Here's a time lapse from one of the Team 1 vs Team Liquid games showing what bot lane looks like.
There's a difference in what values you can get out of Mage versus support bot lanes. This is for sure true. Sorry, Mage bot lanes in pro play versus solo queue. This is for sure true. But I think most people would tend to say that Mage bots are also very strong in solo queue. And I think it's for a slightly different reason. In pro play, they get to do these really coordinated movements where they plan specifically when they're going to leave and provide extra resources to their bot laner. In solo queue, I think it's a little bit different. It's just that these mages can wave clear very safely, and their laning sort of provides them a way to exist more freely alone in the bot lane than traditional AD carries do. I mean, most champions, except with the exceptions of like Ezreal or something like this, have struggled to exist alone in lanes, even sometimes versus 1v1 80 carries. Like, a lot of times if you end up alone in lane versus a Kai'Sa, if you make a misstep, then you can just randomly die. Ruler has several really famous solo kills where he just walks under a turret as Xayah and kills the enemy 80 carry. But mages don't really have this issue. They can clear waves from very far away. In solo queue, it's like, it keeps things very simple, and it makes it harder not to int, and it gives you a certain amount of agency as a bot lane player that you kind of just don't have when you're playing a marksman, even though I don't actually think scaling-wise that mages are inherently better than marksmen or anything like this. I just think it kind of streamlines the laning a little bit. You don't need as much team resources in order to exist.
Like between the levels of 3 and 6, and what you'll notice is it's literally a solo lane.
Sorry, that was confusing. The overarching point that I was trying to make is he's talking specifically about why this type of thing benefits pro play, but I think there's certain reasons why we also see mages being very good in solo queue right now. I think they've always been pretty viable, and we just happen to be seeing it more right now, and it's gaining popularity, and he's just really zoning in on the pro play part. But they're good in solo queue too.
So what's going on here? Where are both of the supports? Well, let's follow Carrier and Camille and find out what he's doing so we can reverse engineer the whole strategy. He lanes bot lane for about the first 3 levels of the game, then he recalls and runs out of base towards mid. Gets caught, loses half his health, so recalls again, then he invades the enemy raptors with the boys, then he sits in a bush protecting his top laner for like a full minute, then he runs mid and stops Akali's recall, then he sits in a bush and shadows Veigar for another full minute, and then finally 8 minutes into the game, he returns to bot lane and starts laning normally all of a sudden. These timers of level 3 and 8 minutes are very intentional. If you look at what the support role quest actually does, you'll find a hidden debuff you can't see in the game. Gold and experience from minion kills are reduced by 25% out of bot lane until level 3. Supports start by laning bot lane for the first 3 levels since the relative value of minions is much higher in the early levels, so they need to get XP, but also in order to remove this gold and XP penalty from their role quest. Once he gets level 3, Carrier leaves his Mage ADC alone and starts roaming for the next few minutes, and then finally returns to bot lane much later for the cannon wave that arrives at 8 minutes, which is yet another intentional move by him. In-game at any time, you can click on a minion to display this window, where you'll see the minion's level.
That's one of my favorite things about Coach Rogue, is he's really, really good when he's talking about timers. He's always so on the money about, like, here's why pros do things at X time. It's because of this, and reason. It's like, oh, I wouldn't know, especially as someone who doesn't really play support, that the reason he's coming back specifically on this timer is for the cannon wave at 8 minutes. Like, that's just not something I'd be conscious of.
A minion's level is the average level of the enemy team's champions. Importantly, if you're lower level than a minion that dies near you, you receive bonus XP in the form of comeback bonus, which increases depending on how many levels lower you are. 20% bonus for 1 level, 80% bonus for 2, and a 120 bonus for 3. But there's one more line to this passive that's important to know. This rule only activates after the minions have reached level 6, meaning this comeback bonus isn't in effect in the early game. You first have to wait for the minions to hit level 6 before it kicks in, which happens at roughly 8 minutes. This gives us a timeline to explain why the supports roam like this. From levels 1 to 3, they lane bot lane since the relative value of minions is high, but they also need to get level 3 to remove the buff from their role quests. Then from levels 3 until 8 minutes, they roam like crazy, neglecting XP entirely and leaving their bot laner alone. Then they return at about 8 minutes once they notice the enemy minions have hit level 6, at which point they return to bot lane and in this case receive 80% bonus XP, allowing them to slingshot back up in levels in line with the game's average, meaning all of those early roams they didn't really harm them that much since they had the catch-up bonus. So that kind of explains the off-meta support picks. Elise, Pantheon, and Camille, for example, have crazy early game base damage, so they can get a lot done during these early ganks and invades, much more so compared to a traditional support. This playstyle of supports roaming like crazy until minions hit level 6 isn't new. We actually saw it for the first time becoming a popular strategy at the last World Championship, with it being a strategy I already made an entire video dedicated to. The adaptation of playing champions designed for jungle and top lane in the support role is just a natural progression of the strategy to make the roaming more effective.
Well, okay, so because there's a lot of champions built, especially in the jungle role, but also somewhat true in the top lane. Top lane has a lot of tanks, but jungle role is meant to be a fairly low econ role. And then when you look at tank champions as well, they're also pretty much built to, be able to sustain off low economy. You get like your 2-3 like really core tank items, and then you're just done, especially in the jungle. You notice a lot of people are building like these like support items like protoplasm and things like this that still provide your tank spike and are really efficient, and then all of a sudden you're just done jungling now. At least if you're on a tank jungler, right? Tank junglers aren't really the meta. But also, there's just tons of top lane champions that work extremely well with low resources, Shen being one of them.
The new
Shen's a champion that's almost designed to have low resources even while existing in top lane. He has a lot of different modes he can play. The most popular is playing the Titanic Dusk and Dawn build, which is obviously not cheap and does require some amount of resources. But you also have like different types of Shen where you go protoplasm or locket, or you can build some AP items and all these different things that really allow you to maintain a lot of strength in the game while still playing the map much more heavily, playing for your team much more heavily.
We're now seeing for the first time as a result of the introduction of the ADC role quest is that we're seeing a lot more mages bot lane. Most mage champions can generally survive a 2v1 bot lane while their support roams way better when compared to a traditional ADC champion, since they just have more wave clear and more range to farm with spells from in a 2v1, enabling the support to roam more. Whilst the support roaming like this enables the mage bot lane to be more effective as they can receive the full benefit of getting solo XP, something with which is more integral to their champion's archetype, since mages are more...
I just like to point out a small inconsistency about something that he said. He was like, well, one of the reasons Mage Bots doesn't work wasn't as good is because they want to get their first 3 abilities unlocked as fast as possible. But he made a pretty clear point to say that these supports are staying in the lane until level 3. I don't think that means Mage Bots are like all of a sudden bad in his argument about why Mage Bots exist is like horrendous or anything like that. But I'm just saying it's a bit of an inconsistency about what he said. He made a pretty big point of saying that mages really want to get their abilities, and then showed that support still played the lane for the first few levels anyways. He also mentioned the ultimates and things like that, though. It's not like points in your abilities and mages doesn't matter.
More dependent on level up when compared to traditional ADC champions. With the additional added benefit on top of all of this, through getting solo XP they level up faster, which again benefits mages bot lane more since level ups grant over 3 times more armor than they do magic resist. So a mage bot lane getting solo XP will quickly gain far more armor through rapid level growth and will naturally begin to counter the physical damage of a traditional ADC counterpart. And the only real downside to all of this is that your support is now underleveled, but that just entirely gets made up for in the form of catch-up XP once minions get level 6, and your support just comes back into lane and instantly catches up in levels in line with the game average through catch-up XP on minions and champion kills. So if you try to stay bot and 2v1 the enemy mage bot lane, you have to get a lot done, since the enemy support is terrorizing your top mid and jungle, and you've been put on a clock anyway by the mage who's getting solo XP against you. And if you send your support to match the roaming, then you might find that a traditional support champion is simply weaker in level 3 fights when compared to a champion that was literally designed to be a jungler or a solo laner that is just cosplaying as a support. And the whole time this is happening, the bot laners are just handshaking farm in the game's new third solo lane. But the problem still stands. The enemy mage bot lane is getting bigger power spikes than your traditional ADC champion is as a result of the bonus gold and 7th item slot of the bot lane role being used.
It depends on the item. Mages are, I would say that the first item tends to be stronger than most other AD carries. First item, and then their second is pretty comparable. Depends. Something like Ezreal, Corki, very very strong 2 items, but like for the most part, I would say a mage is still stronger around 2 items, and then after those accelerated points, we start needing to talk about context of the game. I don't think after that point ADCs are definitively stronger. But they tend to be more valuable in terms of DPS champions than mages do. But like I said, it really depends on the context of the game, because certain things like ranges or the type of comp that you're playing can really help determine, whether that AD carry or that mage in the bot lane post 3 items is going to be more valuable. And there's also exceptions at 1 item too. Something like a 1 item Kaisa all of a sudden can just like solo kill some mages if they misstep in the bot lane. So you kind of have to be careful. Same with like something like Ezreal or something like that, or Lucian in some cases. So you're not like safe no matter what mage, no matter what matchup you're playing in the bot lane. It's important to keep in mind.
More efficiently and having that eventual huge power spike of a Rabadon's death cap. Not to mention the fact that once a Ziggs ultimate lands on your ADC's head, your ADC has almost no magic resist, since MR growth per level is basically terrible compared to armor growth. So next time you see an MSI champion select where a bot lane pick,
I do think something like Ferris, a little bit underrated into mages. Not only is he a good pick tool, but he's a really good Wits End builder. But I noticed on League Twitter that a lot of people actually don't really like Wits End as an item. But I think it's good on hit champions. So I wonder what's up with it.
Pike Syndra, Camille Mel, or Ziggs Shen, you'll know what they're doing and why. You'll know why the supports are running top lane at level 3, you'll know why they return to get XP at 8 minutes, and you'll know...
I really liked... My favorite part of the section of the video by far was him talking about the timings. It's like, oh, we get level 3, I would just assume, like anyone else, that, oh, well, you get level 3, so you have all your abilities, so you're more useful when you roam. I would not have been thinking about the support role quest interaction where you... have penalties until you're level 3, and then you leave the lane, and then coming back at the specific 8-minute timer for your catch-up XP. I would not know anything about like that. It just like adds to the understanding of why this play is good and how Riot might make changes in order to nerf it or buff it in the future. So I thought that was extremely informative.
Exactly why the 7 item 1000 AP Ziggs ultimate landing directly in your ADC's head does so much goddamn damage.
Well, AD carries are just generally squishy, right? But like I said, I think there's a difference between, there's a big difference between what the mages and the AD carries get out of their 7th item. AD carries tend to be allowed to build more defensive items because they have extra items. Mages get the ability to build more offensive items, generally speaking. And it improves Rabadon's a lot. Also, I'm going to reiterate it one more time, but people forget that mid lane role quest, you have the 8% bonus AP buff. So actually, at 3 items, a mid lane mage is going to be stronger than a bot lane mage. But a bot lane mage is going to hit 3 items sooner. And then at 7 items, it's going to outscale the mid lane role quest. Hey guys, it's Flynn. If you enjoyed that react or you found it interesting, you might also like this react to Azap's ability haste video. Or if you want to continue the conversation, you can go ahead and leave a comment or subscribe and try to catch me live on stream. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.